Hello and Crush Your Mountain. Personal growth is on the air, and I'm so thrilled to have you with us today. And I'm going to tell you, when I work with my clients, there are some individuals that come to me, and it goes beyond what I can do. Okay, I used to help people to lose weight. I help people to reverse type 2 diabetes, or at least to lower their glucose, get it to more than manageable levels, but optimal levels. And I also help individuals to build muscle and then get a structure of a pathway on their life. But many times I come across individuals who are looking to make a change. However, their biggest challenge is not the things that I work with directly. The biggest challenge is the addiction that they face. One of the most common addictions is found in a socially acceptable substance called alcohol. It's everywhere, right? It's ubiquitous. And yet, so many individuals right now are dealing with that. So what I do is I refer them to individuals that I know can help them. That's why I wanted to introduce you to my two special guests and two incredibly powerful people who share their experience to help their clients and those who are my clients to make a change for the better, to get better and get full recovery. Let me introduce to you Miss Julie Miller and Steve Knapp. They are the founders and owners of Through the Glass Recovery. They are recovery coaches with the experience and skill to help individuals to break free of the addiction, so that it's not part of their lives, so that alcohol is not part of their lives. And I'm so happy to have this opportunity so I can share them with you. And so without any further ado, Steve and Julie, welcome to Crush Your Mountain. Good morning.
Thank you so much for having us on. That was one heck of an introduction.
Well, it's so
I
you
I
guys
got
are you guys do what they call the good work, you know. And I've seen so many individuals whose lives were just destroyed, either by the individual themselves or being a codependent. So please talk to us. Tell us a little bit about your journey. What got you to this space of helping individuals with alcohol? Ladies first, Julie.
Yeah, thank you. So, first, just thank you so much for the honor of being here. I really appreciate it. And yeah, so I have struggled with alcohol for the last 10 years. I've been sober now for 2.5 years, but it's quite a journey to get to the point where you feel like you're in recovery, where you can do life without alcohol. I don't have a big dramatic rock bottom, lost everything, moment. And um, and I think one of the important things about my message is that people don't have to get to that point. You don't have to destroy your marriage, and you don't have to lose your home and your job, and you don't have to destroy your health in order to make the decision to stop drinking alcohol. Um, so for me, it was very insidious, it snuck in. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I homeschooled my kids, and over the course of a decade, I went from drinking a glass of wine here and there to drinking a bottle of wine or more and hiding it. And that was like what I needed to get through the evenings. And like you said, Henry, our society, our culture tells us that moms need alcohol in order to get through the day, in order to deal with the stress, in order to handle our kids, because parenting is stressful. And we call it the mommy wine culture. But we're convinced that we need it, right? The trouble is that, like, just like you said, alcohol is an addictive drug. That's all that it is. It's an addictive drug that our society thinks is acceptable. So by the time I realized I was drinking too much, it had turned into an addiction. I kept trying to quit. I'd tell myself, in the morning, I'd wake up with a hangover, trying to force myself through the day. And I would promise myself I wasn't going to drink that night. But then 5 o'clock comes around and I was pouring a glass of wine. And it happens almost automatically. Like, you don't even realize how hard it is to quit until you try. And that's when I realized I was in trouble. So my story is kind of two parts. I quit drinking one day. I was just really depressed and I was miserable and I knew I was drinking too much and I swore I was going to stop. So I did. And I quit drinking for 14 months. The first time that I stopped. But I didn't have any idea what that was supposed to look like. So I just stopped drinking. I didn't do what we call the work of recovery. I didn't work to figure out what was all the underlying things that I was drinking away, that I was hiding from and escaping from. So after 14 months, I had a really bad day and I picked up a beer and I drank it. And that started me on a year-long relapse that was awful. Um, and it took another year to claw my way out of that and to get sober for the second time. And the second time is when I learned the difference between sobriety and recovery. And that's kind of what Steve and I are wanting to talk about here today. Sobriety is not drinking, just the act of abstaining from alcohol. Recovery is when you figure out all of the thought patterns and all of the behaviors that need to change in order to move through life without alcohol and without wanting alcohol and without wishing you could escape. So I often say create a life so full there's no space left for alcohol. And the second time I quit drinking, that's what I learned how to do. I learned how to tackle all of the stuff that was underneath. I learned how to deal with my perfectionism and my low self-worth and my habit of people pleasing. I learned, how to be actually myself and discover who I really am. That's where recovery happens. That's where you put down the drink, but then you also make all these these beautiful and really difficult changes in your life so that you can move forward and not drink anymore and have it not be something that you wish you could do all the time. So I know so many people who are sober and all they think about is wishing they could drink. Like they feel like it's a punishment that they had to stop drinking. And when you can get to the point where you see alcoholism or the addiction as a gift because it's pushing you into this great life that you didn't even know existed, that's when you get the freedom. That's when you find the freedom from the addiction. So that's a little bit of my background. Yeah.
Wow. Steve, talk to us. Tell us your story.
My story is kind of similar to Julie's. I didn't get to the point where I lost my job or lost my house or had incredible amounts of debt or DUIs or anything along those lines. I still had all of those things, and so I didn't really have the the big extravagant rock bottom. And I think it's really important that like we hear all these stories about people that have these big rock bottoms, and that's where you need to get to start crawling your way out. And everyone's rock bottom is going to look a little different. You don't have to lose it all to get it all back. It's just a matter of getting rid of the one thing and then starting to figure out what I was avoiding. So my story starts essentially um, in a good chunk of my 30s was where I drank the most. I drank and it got worse and it got worse and it got worse to the point, I had bottles hidden in my truck. I was drinking and driving all the time. I was drunk at work and I was still managing poorly, but I still held it all together. And eventually it came to the point where I wasn't holding it together anymore, and the lie got too big to carry, and it got between me and potentially throwing a friend under the bus, and I chose to stand in front of my mistake and the shame that goes along with actually admitting that I have a problem was incredibly hard to overcome because I felt like a complete and utter failure. If I say that I have a problem, I'm less of a man. I can't I should be able to. The story I tell myself is that I should be able to control my drinking. I should be able to do the normal things that everyone does, and it's ego crushing to let go of that one thing and say, you know what, I need some help. I need to do something different. And so I just hit 3 years sober a couple of days ago, and like, it's been an incredible journey of letting go of things and learning. I quit and I've been quit. I haven't had a relapse. I haven't. This is my first go at this, and um, I think it takes time it's taken me a lot of time to figure out what I needed to heal or hear the message. Like, once again, what Julie was saying, sobriety versus recovery. I need to abstain. I need to quit the substance, whatever that is. For me, is alcohol. Uh, to really start finding the root and really start showing up and really start being present, not only for the people around me in my life, but for myself. And I didn't even realize like that was a thing uh, until I started doing the recovery part. And the recovery part to me was learning how to deal with life in like a healthy emotional way, because I wasn't dealing with life properly at all. I was just avoiding it. I was using alcohol to cope and deal with the stress and anxiety. The dads go out to sporting events and have beers with their buddies and drink while they mow the lawn, and have a beer when you're barbecuing, because that was a big thing for me. And so to change all of those behaviors and all of that social acceptability, where alcohol is just there for you to relax. It's advertised as this thing that's supposed to help you. And if you look at any of the statistics and research based on alcohol, it does the opposite. So, I mean, it works until it doesn't, and it stops working pretty darn quickly.
Yeah. Well, again, kudos to the both of you because of your journeys, and you're still taking the journey, and that's the thing about it. Most individuals, even when it comes to looking after one's health on in terms of reducing glucose or things like that, what happens is that people don't realize it's something that is a constant thing. But just like you, many of my clients, and even I myself, we had to examine what was the underlying causes that brought us to the space that we were in. You see, and oftentimes individuals use alcohol or food or other substances as a way of masking a pain. One of my little ones, you know, my son's mom actually, she died because of substance abuse, and that's a very sad thing. And having seen the results of that, having seen that, I have to ask you all, what are some of the things that people uncover when they start to do a dive within themselves to rid themselves of the addiction? What challenges do they have to confront? Julie, you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I think first it's important to recognize every single person has their own battles, and they have their own mountains, so to speak. Um, but for me, the first thing that I realized is that I had no idea who I was. And this goes way back before alcohol ever played a part in my life. We develop so many beliefs about ourselves as children. And we carry those beliefs into our adult lives. And that stuff affects us, I think, more deeply than most people recognize. So for me, there was this underlying belief that I'm not good enough, that I'm that I have to overachieve or I have to be perfect in order to deserve love. And it sounds almost crazy to talk about that and then talk about that in relation to addiction to alcohol. But what I discovered in doing my own deep dive is that that belief was what I was really trying to numb, what I was really trying to escape from. So the self-talk that goes with that, that I needed to do better, that my kids deserved a better mom, that my husband deserved a better wife, that I just wasn't good enough. And I carried that so heavily through all of my life. And in my teenage years, our teenage years are this massive developmental phase in our lives that most of us didn't experience in the healthiest way possible. So we learn to fit in instead of belong, and we learn to change ourselves and become chameleons so that we can fit in with whatever group of people it is that we want to fit in with, and we start letting ourselves disappear, our true selves disappear. We abandon ourselves. And over the course of time, that turns into this mask that we wear. We talk a lot about masking, and I'm sure you're familiar with that, Henry. But it's putting on the mask so everybody thinks that my life is perfect. And it's the putting on the mask so that, I look like super mom. And I did. My life on the outside looked amazing. It looked like I had it all together. And I worked so hard to keep that facade up. I didn't want anybody to know I had flaws, that I wasn't, in some ways that I wasn't perfect. And it's exhausting. And so eventually I found alcohol to numb that. And I think the other thing that we learn when we do that deep dive is that for many of us and many of the clients that I work with, we don't know how to deal with hard emotions. We didn't learn that as kids, and there's a lot of reasons for that. For me, it was, when you hit those teenage years and those emotions get really big, my parents would be like, "You're being over dramatic. Calm down," or "You're making a big deal out of nothing. I don't understand why you're so upset." And so I got this message that my feelings were wrong and that I shouldn't feel them. Um, so I went through, my teens, my early 20s, thinking that all of these big emotions, the anger and that sadness and all of those things that are hard to deal with, I felt like they were wrong and I should be able to turn them off. And then I discovered alcohol. And it was like, oh my gosh, here's the answer. Here's how you turn it all off, right? I found it. I found the holy grail of turning off your emotions. And so when you take alcohol out of the equation 28 years later, whatever that is, the first thing that hits you is that you don't know how to deal with those emotions. Um, and that's the first skill I think most of us need to learn, is how to move through emotions in a healthy way instead of just trying to numb them, and to allow the emotions. We have to allow them. We have to be okay that we're feeling angry or sad or disappointed or frustrated. And then we have to learn how to cope with them. So that's been kind of my deep dive, is uncovering who I am and also learning how to, respond in emotionally healthy ways to tough situations.
So we would argue then that oftentimes individuals are basically trying to rebuild their identity, okay, when they step back and try to figure out what's happening there, right? And I know you had something to say about that, Steve, as well. So I want to give you the floor, sir.
I was so busy doing all of the things other people thought I should be doing. Steve, you would be great at this. And so then I would just go and do the thing because somebody else thought I would be great at it, instead of actually following my own intuition and believing in that gut instinct that actually drives you to do the things that are like authentic to me. And so that deep dive for me was very similar and close to what Julie was talking about. I didn't understand at the beginning that when I was going to turn the alcohol switch off, that I was going to feel like a teenager again. And I did. I started feeling like I remember a teenager, my emotions being all over the place. And now what we do is we have, like, for our clients, we have a list of coping skills, because this is all the things that I didn't learn back 30 years ago, 25 years ago. I didn't learn how to do all of these things. I didn't even know they were a thing to do. Relax, have a bath, listen to some calming music, go for a walk, get outside, get sort of in tune with nature. There's so many different ways to relax and allow those emotions to show up. As a man, don't you dare show emotions,
Mm,
right? Cry, turn that sucker off. Don't anything that makes you look weak on the outside, that macho masculine image that it was I had to learn that, like, I'm a pretty emotional guy,
mm.
and I started to learn that was okay. Like, go ahead and cry if you need to cry. Like, I learned that crying, there's a lot of healing in actually letting those tears flow, and it's actually pretty good for you.
You know,
Uh,
it's
go ahead.
interesting that you said that. With every time I hear that men uh, come to a realization that it's okay to cry,
Hmm.
I'm reminded of the shortest verse in the Bible. They say it's the shortest verse in the Bible, and it was Jesus wept. And the irony is that so many individuals who have a deep religious belief uh, forget that that great exemplar
Hmm.
showed his emotion.
Right.
So part of our movement towards perfection, if you will, part
Mhm.
of our continued development is the open and honest expression of our feelings.
Yeah. And it's vulnerable,
Yeah.
especially when you're growing up, and Julie explained this too, is the messaging is turn it off,
Mm.
right? I don't know how to deal with it. So, if you can turn that off, then everything will be better for all of us. And so my messaging now is let it go.
Mm.
Live in it for a little bit if you want, because none of those emotions stay around. I've had to learn that lesson the hard way and go through the highs and lows. But I mean, I had a lot of that not good enough too, and instead of it getting me to perfectionism, it got me to not try. I just gave up on stuff. I was like, okay, if it's not going to be good enough for you because I needed external validation, I'm just not going to do it. And so that's where it led me down. So one of the things that limiting beliefs is what Julie and I talk about when we talk to our clients too, is, what is the mindset that that I'm holding on to, that you're holding on to, that's actually stopping you from getting to where you want to go, and do that deep dive into, I had a really bad anxious attachment style because I was searching for that validation and for love. And so because of that, I would just hold on to people super, super tight that actually cared about me, which would push them away. And I needed to learn that space was okay. And I needed to learn that communicating the way I was feeling, even through that, was really, really important. And learning to find the words for that is it's a journey.
Yeah. You know, as children, as you mentioned, we're told we're put in our little boxes, right? Okay, girls are sugar and spice and everything nice, right? Which I kind of subscribe to a certain extent. Okay, but at the same time, our parents lived in a world where the model for raising children was, I would venture to say, I guess, a little standoffish. You come from an area where you don't remove them from the mother as quickly as possible because we don't want them to become mama's boys and dependent on mom. Or when you see men don't hug your children because we don't want them to become. We want them to be well-rounded children and become fully developed. But what they didn't realize is they were stunting the emotional development of the child when
You,
parents are not involved. What were you going to say? Go ahead.
oh, the I was way softer of a man when I wasn't emotional at all. And when I held those emotions down and when I didn't acknowledge that they existed, I was way softer of a man than I am now, knowing how to express myself and how to stand up for myself and, name those emotions. I think it's
Yeah.
really brave and courageous to learn that and figure that out and be a part of that emotionally intelligent conversation.
What did being softer as a man look like when before the recovery?
I got angry really fast when things didn't go my way, and that's not how you deal with problems properly.
Mm.
I was short. I wasn't compassionate at all, and I think it takes a lot of strength to be compassionate, and I think it takes a lot of strength to show up. I didn't show up. I only showed up when when I could put my cape on and do the Superman thing and fix the problem. And it takes a lot of strength to allow someone else to fix their problem and just be there and show love. And I think in that aspect, I'm a lot softer in a compassionate and loving way, but I'm a heck of a lot stronger in being able to stand by my own word. And I think that's the difference between being soft and being just confident and having strength in my word and my values and standing behind those.
Yes. So talk to us, Julie, about building resilience within your clients.
Yeah, that's a great one. So, on the subject of our parents and, you were talking about the parents being kind of standoffish. We call that emotionally unavailable, in our circles. And most of us grew up with parents who were emotionally unavailable, right? That was just the way that that time was. And that was kind of the expected, like you were saying. And so we failed to ever learn how to really connect with other humans. Um, for me, resiliency and connection go hand in hand in a lot of ways, because when we're connected to other people, it gives us the strength to move through the difficult times. One of the biggest, most important pieces of recovery from addiction, and this is from, addiction to alcohol or drugs, or even behavioral addictions like eating and shopping and sex and gambling and video games, all of these different things that are addictive behaviors. The foundation of the solution here is connection, and it's connection with other people. And when we have people we can depend on and people we've really truly connected with in an emotionally available way, we gain the strength to have the courage to move through the hard times, and to do it without trying to numb ourselves in some way or another. And there's a lot of other pieces to resiliency also. There's understanding who we are and having faith in ourselves and a belief that we deserve to move through this difficult situation without numbing ourselves. And I think that that's a big piece of it, that, the self-worth, the self-love comes into play there. That gives us a lot of strength. And yeah, there's so many different parts and pieces here. And we do our best with our clients to kind of address them all. Different people struggle in different areas, but when we look at it holistically from, all the different areas of our lives, whether that's relationships or whether it's emotional skills or social skills or negative self-talk, learning how to move through each of those and having the skills to do that is where we really become resilient and we're able to handle the challenges that life throws at us.
So I would ask you this question also. And when it comes to dealing with individuals, you're dealing with community. And I know that that's an important part of things. with me, I love to take my clients. I don't know if I mentioned this to you, Steve, before. One of the things I like to do with my clients is the grounding and forest bathing sessions, and getting them out in nature and just sort of learning to be in the moment, letting the electrical current of their bodies connect with the earth, developing the gratitude practice that way. And for them, it helps them. Even when they have an appetite, they're more intentional about what they eat afterwards, and we move in those spaces. We do, tell us about some of your activities for your community.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're looking at the community level of this, I think that what you're describing is the idea of keeping wellness in the forefront of the mind, right? And these different activities that you're sharing. I love the idea, the forest bathing and the grounding. I'm a forest girl, so I really appreciate that aspect. Um, we focus a lot on self-care and the different things that we can do to take care of ourselves, and that looks different for everybody. We all have different needs there. But when we're actively engaging in self-care every day, we're sending ourselves the message that we are worth getting through the hard thing. So for me, a big part of my self-care every morning is journaling. I sit down and I journal, and I write about whatever's going on in my heart, in my head, or in my day. I set an intention for the day, how I want to feel throughout the day, and what does that need to look like. And that kind of keeps not just sobriety, but growth and personal development and wellness in the forefront of my mind. I go for walks and I go for hikes, and that's an important piece of it. I spend time with people that are in recovery and have conversations about recovery. Sometimes that's just a conversation. Sometimes that's me showing up and helping someone who's having a hard time. But I think every time we do something that benefits us, that creates a sense of growth, we're keeping our recovery in the forefront of our minds. And when it's there, that makes that decision to not pick up a drink a lot easier, because it's something that we're actively working toward.
Okay, cool. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. And many times, beautiful thing is to have individuals that they can rely on. And the idea of accountability has to play a role. When I work with clients, many times that's the thing that they need the most, is the accountability. How do you enact that when you have clients that need that sort of support? So what, Steve, you want to give us an idea about that?
Yeah, first I was gonna tack on one thing there to what Julie said
Do
was
that, man. Go for it.
recovery is the most selfless thing I think I've ever done when it comes to like the self-care and that sort of thing. Uh, because it forces me to say no, and it forces me to take care of myself, and it forces me to try new things, and it forces me to ground myself either in nature or, well, like I have to discover what things I like and what things calm me down and what my self-care actually looks like, whether it's journaling a little bit and writing a gratitude list. So um I mean, at the end of my journal, I write 3 things I love about myself. So I can, and I thought it was the goofiest thing ever when I first did it. It felt absolutely ridiculous. Like, this is silly. No way. Yes, I'm gonna try it. And it's really cool. And I cried the first couple of times when I actually, told myself right at the end of every journal I write, love myself. Like, I love you, Steve. And like that right there is something I never said to myself before. I
Mm.
mean, so for community and accountability, what we try and do is help our clients find a sense of community that works for them, because we can be their accountability partner for a little bit, but to find what accountability looks like for them. So when when our clients move on and continue through their journey, they understand what accountability is. They have people that they can trust, because I think it's really important that accountability comes from a safe space.
How long do you? Oh, sorry. Go.
I'm just going to jump in and share really quick. So with Through the Glass Recovery, with our coaching service that we've developed, we host a meeting once a week that allows anyone. They don't have to be our clients. Just it's open to anybody who is hoping to get sober or who is sober. And it's on Zoom. And we invite them to come and share what's going on in their lives, because talking to other people who are on that same path has so much power. It's accountability, but it's also the empathy and connection that we need. And so that's something that we've got that's available to the entire recovery community. And the other thing we do for our clients is we have a text group. And it's just, it's this group you can jump in. We've all gotten to know each other, and it doesn't take very long to get to know people when you jump into a group like that. Um, and a lot of times we're just sharing life. Hey, look at this cool thing that I did today. But every so often something comes up that's hard. And to have that group of people that are all on the same journey and be able to say, this thing happened in my life and I'm really hurting right now. And to be seen and heard by other people is so powerful. It's a sense of accountability and also just a sense of support. And that's something that we've made available to our clients because, again, like Steve said, we don't want them to need us forever. We want to give them these tools and empower them to move forward in their recovery. And so those are a couple of the tools that we offer to people that are in our community to make sure they have that accountability and that connection that you're referring to.
Mm-hmm. How long do your programs, your packages last?
So we have a 6-week package and a 12-week package. And, 6 weeks is a really good amount of time to kind of get your footing and to learn the tools to get through the days without picking up a drink. When people are ready to really dig into the stuff underneath that we've been talking about here, that's when we suggest a 12-week package, because that gives us time to get to know each other and to build that trust and connection with our clients. And then, get them comfortable in their sobriety and then start really digging into the recovery. And for some people, 12 weeks is enough to really get them, ready to launch, ready to spread their wings and fly. And other people opt to stick with it for a while, and I think our focus is making sure that the people that we work with are getting what they need. And that's different for everyone. We don't try to fit them into a box. We don't try to tell them what they need. We help them explore to figure out what it is that they need. And then we do our best to either meet those needs or help them find the resources that they need to get to that point.
Well, that's important because everyone has to sit back and again look within themselves and find out what that need is, what's missing, so that they could address the loss. You see, fill the hole, fill the gap, if you will. Most people in the world, we're all dealing with something, and we all have ways and means of coping with those things. The challenge is that many times those coping methods can be more destructive than the issue themselves. And that method, that coping method, that addiction becomes so big, it hides the real problem. So having the individuals there the way you do, and that's the idea of community, you see, and then following up and dealing with them step by step, one by one. That is where your accountability and helping them to come to the resolution of that challenge and beginning that beautiful journey of continuous recovery and healing. See, well, you guys are just incredible, and I'm so glad to be part of this space. That's the thing about any almost every health wellness coach that I have encountered. We all come from a space of personal experience, you see, and so we are here and we have this, we share this big pot of empathy and understanding for what we're going through, but we share it with the intention and the perspective of helping others to move forward in their lives as well. So I'm grateful for this. I have one more question I want to ask you too. And I always ask this at the end of all of my shows. And so, and if you've heard any of my shows, you know what that question is. But I'm going to start with Miss Julie, only because she, just honestly, man, she's better looking.
That's the truth.
Yeah,
that's the truth.
Yeah, but that said, Miss Julie Miller, what does it mean to you to crush your mountain?
Yeah, I love this question so much. Obviously, my mountain has been addiction. That's been the thing in my life that has been, the front and center for so long. To climb that mountain was to get sober. To crush that mountain was to create a life so full that there's no space left for alcohol.
Beautiful, beautiful. Steve, Knapp, my man, what does it mean?
I will not be able to sum that up near as beautifully as she did. No.
That's okay.
Anyways, to crush my mountain, it's very similar to Julie's is the recovery from addiction, but it's freedom. It looks like and it feels like freedom. It feels like following my dream. I've worked hard. I faced fear. I've been vulnerable. I've been really, really honest. And it's overcoming the limiting beliefs, and success of all of this is just seeing the other side of it. Like, life has gotten so much brighter now than it ever has been 3 years later. And I still continue to work towards crushing this thing and seeing what is on the other side of it. It's just been incredible.
Dream, believe, love, live. That's the sign behind you, Steve. And I think it applies to both of you and perhaps all three of us in this space at this time, because we have to have the dream of full health and recovery where we are. We have to believe that we can do it. We have to love ourselves first and love others around us so that we can live to our best lives. And that's the whole idea. It's the same concept of the crush method. You see, conceive, commit, refine, rework, undertake, sustain, and habituate. The idea is we are there for that. And I'll tell you something. This has been an incredible discussion with the two of you. And my heart goes out to the both of you, and with the greatest wishes of success. And perhaps as we can work together another time, if I have another client that needs your services, they are yours. I guarantee you that. And perhaps again, we'll have some events coming up that we can work together on. But until then, I'll tell you what, you guys are amazing. I hope again to see you again soon. And also, friends, don't forget, if this has been of value to you, please, please, please hit the like button, subscribe on Apple, follow us there. And more importantly, look for Steve and Julie, the Through the Glass Recovery Coaching Program. Can you tell us, Steve, where can we find you guys?
You can find we actually have a podcast too, not just our coaching services. We have a website. It's www.throughtheglassrecovery.com. That's where you can join our mailing list, so you can get journal topics. There's always some value in there. The meeting topic for the night, if you're interested in joining the meeting, there's the link there as well. Our podcast is called Through the Glass Recovery Podcast. It's on Apple, Spotify, you name the platform, it's on it. Julie, am I missing anything?
I don't think so. Everything that we offer, and we offer tons of free resources in addition to coaching, it's all available on the website. So throughtheglassrecovery.com.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, we look forward to seeing you there. And again, as I always tell everybody, okay, don't allow yourselves to just be dragged down by the challenge that's within your body. Make your doctor your coach, make your doctor your partner, not your boss. Seek out individuals who can coach you to recovery from whatever the illness may be. But by all means, friends, until next time, don't just climb your mountain, crush through it. And we'll see you next time. Thank you so very much, Julie and Steve.
Thank you so much, Henry.